What's going on, everyone? I just wanted to stop by real quick before this podcast starts and say you should like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to follow me on all my social medias at John D. Klauser, literally the same name as the name that you subscribe to on this YouTube channel. So enjoy this clip, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Go buy Aaron shirts. I don't know what else to say. I feel like a subject matter that I was about to talk about, I probably shouldn't talk about now because I feel like I'm making fun of it. All right, well, we'll talk about it in the podcast. Buy Aaron shirts. I think I said that though.
Hey! Hey! Look, dude. Look in the sky.
Oh.
Dude, that's a damn tornado. A damn tornado.
Welcome to the John Show with your host, John Doogie Klauser.
All right. What is going on, everyone? How are you? We are here on another episode of the John Show with your host, John D. Klauser. I think we're probably going to start calling it, guys, get ready for it to be called the Juan Solo Show. I think that's really where we're going to go with this. I think it's a better name. Everyone I've tested it towards, they've been like, John, that sounds like a way better name to do than the John Show. This John Show sounds so blasé compared to the Juan Solo Show, and it's kind of a good pun. So I think that's probably what's going to be going to here sooner than later. But that's about it. Yeah, I don't know why I started off with that. What's up, guys? So I hope you're doing well. Like I said, we are here on a new episode of the podcast. We have a bunch of silliness to be going on too. Like, man, I'm starting this podcast a little later. It's Friday night, normal night that we start this podcast. But what's interesting is, like, I normally try to start this like 9:30, 10:30 ish, and I'm like, ooh, that's late. We're like looking at 12:35 right now. It's awesome. It's a good time, but I feel like I got to get myself in the right spot. And today was an odd day. Today was interesting, just in the sense, like, it was so damn hot in my job, pretty much, and it was just like, oh, this one really sucked. This one wasn't that fun. So I was dealing with that. Nothing big craziness of the world. My job's weird. A lot of weird, weird stressful shit that doesn't really affect me that much because my position doesn't. I don't get affected by that. I'm just kind of just hanging loose. I got paid today, so I can't really complain about much. There's really not much to be upset about. So I thought I was going to start. I thought I'll go ahead and I guess start off this podcast with, I guess, the stuff that I was going to talk about. Like, John, it's your podcast. You can do whatever you want, right? Are you right? Am I right? So I've been looking at new cameras. That's the thing. I've been doing. Because I want to amp this up a little bit more. What's so funny is that I added another light onto my, I guess, the camera's, if you're looking at camera's right side, the camera's right side. So over here on this side of the camera, where my hand is, there's more lights added here. Same amount of lights as here. It's fun. So that's a new thing as well. But I've been looking at new cameras because it's this time. I hate to say it. It's always sad because, like, you get attached. I don't know if any other people, a lot of people look at their equipment just as like equipment, and it is just equipment. But to me, this piece of equipment has made me, make work. It's made me film. I've been able to pay bills. I've used this camera to make money, and it's just funny, or it's just like this moment you have, and it's so funny if you have it. I'm one of these people that have it because I think it's fun to have with your objects that you use. But like, I'm going to be retiring. It's going to go in retirement, and a new camera is going to come up, and it's going to work, or it's going to take over its duty. And I don't know. Does anyone else do that kind of shit? I like to think that the reason why I do that is simply because like I was adopted or I was abandoned, and so there's like some weird attachment I grab towards to everything I have that means something to me. So I give it a sort of what would you call it, like a personality and a aura when it is just an object instead of it just being something I use. It becomes like a person. It becomes like a something for me because it could be the only thing I have out of everything. It's so weird. Isn't that so weird? Like how little things in your life that happen when you're young will just like trickle down to you, and then that will be your little thing that you have. It's insane. The older that you get, I've been learning this. The older that I get, the more I'm just learning this. I'm just like that, and then going to therapy, of course. There's always times too, like every once in a while I'll still slip up and I'll just act immature. Like, God damn it, John, you fucking asshole. Like, it's not good to act like that. Don't act like that. It's not good. But it very rarely happens. It's just like a sudden mist every once in a while, compared to like being like a traditional like downpour like it used to be. So, there's those things. There's that in life that happen. So, a couple weeks ago, where I really wanted to start this podcast was a couple weeks ago. I was hanging out down where I live in Kansas City. I live in a pretty good part where I am literally maybe a minute and a half, not even a minute, a 40-second drive to Main Street, Kansas City. And I was also down in, like, I'm within 10 minutes of downtown Kansas City. I just live in the Manson district of the of this place of the Kansas City, Missouri, or what do they call it? The metro city. I don't fucking remember what they call it. They call it the metropolitan, the metropolitan. I believe that's what they call it. Well, anyway, so I live really close down to the hub. So I was walking by this place because I just had dinner or lunch at this bar. Was it like some American fries or something like that? This week's beer is going to be Keystone. I had a Bud Ice as well, but I had that while getting my podcast ready and setting it up and putting lights up. So I kind of feel like, hey, if I'm doing that, I can also have like a beer too. I feel like there's things I'm doing because I really am slowly. Oh, dude, I got a lot of stuff coming up on the back end of this year because 2022 is that was going to be. I think that's going to be the year. That's going to be the year that we're really going to be something, guys. We're really going to be something. But anyway, so I was down in the down part. It's like close to like what they call called Westport. It's just a little like party little suburb area of Kansas City. It's a little neck in the woods. Well, they had this place, and it said like, hey, they have like CBD stuff or like THC stuff where you don't have to have a medical card. I don't have a medical card. In Missouri, it just became legal to have a medical card, and I don't go to the whole process. I got a little card that all I have to do is like take a picture of it, and it'll take me to the website and give me the whole thing where I can basically just get a medical. I don't know how it's gonna work. Actually, I feel like I should make like a little video about it. I should write that down. It's really stupid to be drinking something that gives you the burps when you're trying to talk, right? And so I was down there, and like it said, like, you don't have to have a medical card. So I was like, well, fuck, let's go in there and like just check it out because I'm just super curious all the time about everything. And I went in. And the guy was like, yeah, I'm like, I saw that there is a sign that said that like it has THC or that has like CBDs, but you don't have to have like medical cards. He's like, okay. So he showed me. He's like, I've heard this thing called Delta 8. It's these little gummies. It was basically more like a body high, but what it was is they were legal in Missouri, and it was like basically legal hemp. THC. It had like small amounts of THC in it, but you can only have 20 I believe it was 20 milligrams per little gummy. And you can only have it in gummies. You couldn't have it in flower form, and you couldn't also have it in like any sort of like cartridge form. It was only legal in the in the gummy form. Well, apparently they took it to court, and Missouri government lost versus the lawsuit that was filed because it was underneath a different. It's technically categorized underneath a different category. It's not. It's categorized under hemp, not cannabis. So, bro, to tell you the truth, I do not understand how any of that makes any sense. It doesn't. I don't understand the difference between the two because it's the same fucking plant. But hey, to each cow's own. Again, we're not here. We're not here to understand that. I'm just here to like be the messenger person of like what I learned. And so they lost this lawsuit, Missouri did. And so they were able to sell basically legal THC, but it's in a hemp form, so it makes it legal. And so they have this also, that was Delta 8. And that was like maybe, I don't know, 8 months ago when I had that. Because like Aaron couldn't have some because he gave them to me. He's like, yeah, this is like legal THC. You can have these. Because it has coconut in it, and I'm allergic to like coconut, so here you go. So I just gummed them all at one time and got pretty fucking high off of them. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. It's kind of it was a nice little body high. Went to bed really easy. It was all right, whatever. I was kind of like thinking like, because when it's legal like that, I look at it. It's like, well, it's like having a beer. What's the difference between me having a beer and me having that? If it gets me like inebriated to the point where it feels the same thing as something that's illegal, but it's like just marijuana, like why not try it? And so no big deal. And so I went to this place and he was talking about that, and then he said, hey, there's this thing called Delta 10, which is basically the same thing, but it's more of it's sativa, so it's more of like a head high and more euphoric and more like focused, because that's the whole like that's the side effects of taking like a sativa weed or cannabis or whatever you want to look at it, which I think is the same thing. But it was so doing that, it gets you the same high as THC, or it gets you the same high as cannabis. And he's like, well, Delta 10 is like the sativa, so when you do this, it's like 90. It's like this little thing right here is 95 proof. So, so the equivalent of like thinking of like 100 proof alcohol would be like 100 proof. This is 95 proof. It's so hilarious. But the thing is, like, this is legal because it's from hemp, not from cannabis. It's or something like that, which I thought it was the same thing. But categorically, in the law, and like by law, cannabis is illegal, not hemp, because you can use hemp for other things like t-shirts and pants and all that shit. But it's just funny that technically like that is hilarious. It's like, dude, this is do you guys not see what we're doing here? We're jumping over through so many hoops to make this thing, to do these things when you can easily just make money and just make it legal. Just make it legal. It's already half legal as it is. You just have to have a card for it. It's basically like, oh, you can't drive 18 wheelers. Why? Because you don't have the driver license for it. Well, if you get the driver's license for it, then you can drive an 18 wheeler. It's damn near the same thing like that. It's like you can drive an 18 wheeler illegally. You can smoke pot illegally, or you can get a card and you can do both of them legally. It's hilarious. It's a fun time. I think it's silly. It's like, I don't understand if you've seen it other states and how much money they've made from it. Just go ahead and just legalize it. And it's always one of those, it's that old school thinking. On some things it makes sense, other things it doesn't make very much sense. And that's one of those things that doesn't make very much sense, because it's the things that just economically, people will pay taxes for it. They will pay that a 15% tax on pot. They will do that just because it's legal, and then they don't have to worry about getting caught. They don't have to worry about just having it on them and getting caught by the cops, and the cops fucking with, that thing will just, there'd be one less thing that cops will have to worry about arresting people. People just be a little bit more chill, and cops can be a little bit more relaxed. I don't know what the Delta 8 or the Delta, whatever the fucking COVID shit is. So it's really funny because it's all connected. It's a good time. Aren't you guys happy? Are you guys happy? So my life's pretty good. Like I told you, I saw a guy's nuts at the gym. As always, it's always an interesting thing that occurs. Same thing, sitting down like this. Guy was over here, cocked his legs up. They fell right out of his pants because there's a slit in it, and just there were some balls. And it was just, all right, well, this is what we're doing. And that stayed there for about 7.5 minutes. It was a good time. And the thing is, like, I can outlast people in that sauna. That's my training sauna. So I go in there and I can stay I stay in there for a solid 24 minutes, and that's what I do. It's like my time, 24 minutes. Just because that's how much time I allow myself to have. Because if I do anything more than that, I overcook myself. So the crazy one of the little side effects if you do sauna too long, at least for me, because I think it also might because I used to drink a lot of water in there. So now I'm training myself to be able to just tolerate it. And what I'll do is I'll put water in my mouth and then I'll just spit it back out, or I'll just run it down into a towel. I'll put it into a towel and I'll spit it into a towel because I have to be sanitary because it's fucking a public fucking sauna. It's like, why, John? It's like, John, why are you training for something that you're not training for anything other than just like sitting in here for a strong amount of time? Because all these scientists are telling you that if you stay in here for a certain amount of time, it might help with like just living forever or a little bit longer. And that's honestly the only reason why I do it. Because there's a study that happened from, and I've probably talked about this before, but from Stanford came out with a new one. It's now to 50%. So if you just sit in there, you can really diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, all this stuff, because you're sitting and you're giving yourself heat proteins. And then I like to take cold showers. So the key thing I've heard, and this is also something you've probably heard from goddamn Joe Rogan too, but you do heat, and then you can do cold again. And it's like really, really good for you to go from both. And I'm like, yeah, dude, like I really want to start doing cold baths because I think that'd be an awesome thing to start doing, especially after sitting in a fucking 200-degree sauna and then going to that to a 32-degree like ice bath. That'd be awesome. Just to do an ice bath in general would be fucking awesome. That shit like just really does help. Like, you guys don't understand, if you've never done an ice bath, the jolt that you get from it, and the afterward, because the thing is, but you can't sit there too long, because what does happen is your legs will start shaking, and you'll lose all control. They go wiggly woggly. It's hilarious. It's also really scary too if you've never had it happen before and it happens to you. It's not the best. But I've been telling people for years. I started doing sauna in, I would say 2011 is when I started doing it religiously. So 12, yeah. So almost 10 years. It's been a good time. I guess it has been like 10 years, hasn't it been? It's been 10 years, close to it. And it's one of the best things that ever occur. And I don't know if I told the story, but the reason why I started doing it was because I had an interview. It was right after college. I had an interview with this company that was a high broadcasting company. I was applying for a production coordinating position. So basically what you do is you get assigned like the Oscars. Your job is to basically be someone who organizes, like, what are we going to do in the first minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, like just the whole thing. You have to find people, find talents. You have to, make sheets. It's kind of a crazy position because you're basically just you're literally coordinating where things are going to be, who are going to be doing those things, setting this thing up. you know all that stuff. You're kind of like a right hand man to the director, and that's why I really liked the job. It was really cool because I thought it was a great spot to sit to become a director. Like I'm like, okay, if I can learn and I get really good at this, I can then move over to the directing side, which is what I've always wanted to do. That's the reason why I went to film school. I never understood like I other stuff is cool, but if you're really gonna do something, like fucking be your goddamn director. That's what I want to be. I don't fuck yeah, dude. Like fucking do that shit. It's hard. It's the hardest thing to fucking do, but it's. And they always say, what they say on Dave, 99% of directors fail. Isn't that like such a great thing to feel? But so I was doing that job, and I did the interview, had a callback, did another interview. They offered me the position that I hate, and just so you know, you have to do a drug test. I had smoked some pot because I was in college, and I didn't know this job was, because it was California. I assumed like every film job, because every other film job I had before that, they never drug tested me for. So I was like, why would this one? But this one was a British-based company, so they had different politics, just different rules. So, I still to this day, I do not know what happened, but I'm telling you stuff because it's like just by statutes of limitations, I can't get in trouble for this anymore. So I was like, well, fuck, I probably am going to piss hot. I'm going to piss weed. And so I was like, what can I do? So I bought a bunch of like, tests, and I would pee in them. And then I just started sitting in the sauna. I would go, and at the gym, I would sit in the sauna, and I would do like 3 different sessions. I would try to sit in there as long as I could the first one, so which was only like 6 minutes. Then I'd get out, rest for a bit, go back in there, try to sit for another, like match it again, get back out, and I'd do the same thing again for the 3rd time. Met a lot of cool people doing the sauna. The California sauna people are really, really fun people. And California sauna people, I feel like that should be the title of the podcast right there. Yeah, because that's actually pretty fucking hilarious. The California sauna people. Sorry, if I don't write it down, I will forget it. It's so fucked up with me. So when doing the sauna, I would just do that. So the whole thing was like trying to sweat it out. Now come to find out that like all I was doing was just sweating out water, not sweating out the fat, which had the THC in it. So I went and I had my drug test. I put some eye drops in it. Still to this day, do not know if that worked or not. I didn't hear anything back for a couple days. So I every day, I'm not kidding you guys, I swear to God, I called their like HR and their recruiting phone numbers every day at the same time. It was like 11 o'clock every day. I would call them, and I was like, hey, I was just calling to see hey, like if there was any word on if I'd be able to do that, start working for you guys. And I just did it every fucking day. It was insane. Looking back on it, it was the most insane thing I've ever done to try to get a job, because I was so determined. I'm like, I've got to do this film shit. This is my world. This is what I got to do. This is what I have to do. This is what you see in the movies, is that people just do crazy shit. You hear these stories too, that people just do crazy shit and they just bug the fuck out of everyone until they can get a job. And once they get a job, then they're in and they can just start learning how to do this fucking crazy thing called filmmaking. And that's what I did. I called, and like looking back, I would never do that for any job now, looking back on it. Then I was like, I don't give a fucking fuck. Fuck this. I am going to get this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to become this fucking filmmaker. So, and that's what you did. That's just what you did. And so I eventually got that job. I worked there for a good year, until what happened was like the production stuff kind of slowed down, because it was only like I was working for somebody, for some lady who then when she came back, she just like she just sat in the corner like like this, and so I'm like, what the fuck was wrong with you? Like, why were you gone for so long? Like, whatever you were gone for, like, you should probably go back and start worrying about that instead of this fucking job. Like, let me do this job. And so I got called into this office one day, and they're like, hey, John, like, we're not gonna be needing you at the end of this week, so you can work till Friday, and then after that, like, we'll be good. We won't need your services any longer. It's like, we're not firing you. You can use this for a reference, all that good stuff. And I'm like, fuck. I'm like, all right, well, this kind of sucks. Well, anyway, so Monday happened. I just kind of chilled out, stayed around like my apartment, was like applying for jobs. Monday night Monday night happened, and I got a phone call from one of the warehouse people, because it was connected to a warehouse where I basically like made these orders for these, like, for the cameras, lights, and all this stuff, and then it got shipped out to wherever it needed to go, to whatever film shoot on whatever lot. And the warehouse manager guy called me and said, hey, dude, like why weren't you at work on Monday? I'm like, well, because I'm not working at the job anymore. He's like, well, we need you, like, come in. And so I came in on Tuesday. He's like, we need you, like, can you be here, like? And I'm like, yeah, I totally, for sure, like, no doubt. And I'm like, fuck yeah. So I got back into the place, and I was talking when I was like, just like working one day, and the Latino, like, boss guy came up to me. He's like, yeah, he's like, I saw that you weren't working. And I'm like, that makes no sense. Why? Like, you were such a hard ass worker. Like, it made no sense. Like, we can find work for you. And I'm like, fuck yeah. Well, this is what really fucking sucked, was because then I was talking to this girl, because I was dating this girl for like 7 years, and like we finally broke up. And so I was like just talking around to a bunch of different chicas in this one, and it was her birthday, and she's like, hey, you want to come over, smoke this blunt? And like, so I was like, yeah. And so I went over there. She had like this loft, this really fucking cool loft that looked over all downtown LA. And we smoked this blunt, and then she ended up giving me head on her fucking birthday, which was so fucking random as hell. And a couple of days later, I was at my job, and they're like, hey, John, like, you're gonna be working around like, a lot of expensive equipment, and you're also gonna be able to drive trucks around, so we're gonna need you to take a drug test. I'm like, fuck. So I went and took the drug test, and then I didn't like put any eye drops in it. I just took the test, and I was like, fuck it, dude. I'm like, I think I'm gonna probably get fired from this job, because I'm like, I'm gonna piss hot, because it was like a couple of days later from this time I smoked pot with this girl, this really hot black girl, and she sucked my dick. And so like a couple of days later after that, I got a phone call from this doctor, and he's like, hey, Mr. Klauser, I'm the such a doctor who is looking over your drug test that you just took. So I just was curious, because, the state of California, like, you can have, if you have a card, you can smoke marijuana. And I'm like, yeah. And so he's like, well, do you have one? I'm like, no, I don't, sir. And he's like, doctor. And I'm like, well, that's great. I'm definitely going to lose this job. And he's like, yeah, so I'm going to have to report this to your job. Well, anyway, so what I did was, for the whole week, I just like hid around all throughout the job so I could work all 8 hours. Dude, it was insane, because I just was like so sad. And I'm like, I just wanted to be in film so much. And then the boss lady, who was like one of the CEOs of like that place, she was like, hey, she could never find me. Whenever I could see her, I would just go and I would hide someplace. So I didn't get called to the office. And so Monday happened, or the Friday, like that late afternoon, and like the manager guy who called me, he was like, hey, like, we heard about the drug test stuff, and this story might have to end, and I might have to be able to tell it. Actually, what I'm gonna probably do? I'm gonna turn it off. I'm gonna turn it back on, and we're gonna start another one. We'll do this. All right, we'll see this. Watch this. All right, so to finish the story, I just want to finish it off, and then I'll be done. So he is like, hey, dude, like, you pissed hot on your test. Like, what happened? I'm like, like, tell you the truth, dude, like this really hot black girl invited me over to her place. It was her birthday. She had a blunt. She wanted to smoke it with me. She gave me head, and then like, you know, we just hung out. She's this really hot fucking actress, and like she had these big boobs, and I'm like, I don't know what to fucking tell you, dude. Like, it's just that's what it is. That's what it happened. He's like, well, you know, we're gonna have to let you go, and I'm like, that's totally fine. I understand. And so he like gave me like $80. And a bunch of guys, like, we went and we drove to In-N-Out. We had In-N-Out. We came back. We wrapped up a bunch of fucking film equipment, and then I left. And I'm like, all right, well, today was my last day, so all right, well, you guys be good now. And then I ended up moving on. And after that, I ended up working for 495 Productions. I ended up like working and directing. So it all worked out in the end. It worked. All right, I'll see you guys on the next episode. Like, comment, and subscribe. All right, we'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.